and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, guys, so to start this off, we want to go over how to install and open up TE, and that starts with a web browser. It can be any web browser we'd like. It can be Firefox, Google Chrome, or Microsoft Edge. In today's training, I'm going to use Google Chrome. I'm going to open that up, and we're going to go into etestonline.org. And once we're here, this is the website. This is the eTest website, and this is where proctors, coordinators go to administer your test to students. This is also where you can download your TE application. Keep in mind that TE only works with Windows 10. Okay, it can't work with any outside operating system environment besides Windows 10. So if you have a Mac, it wouldn't be compatible with it. So in the left-hand corner here, we have the Install TE Client button. So you want to click on that, and that would usually, if you are downloading this the first time, you will have a progress bar. It'll take a couple of seconds. When that download is done, you're going to see a TE icon just like so. And you can double click on that once you have it installed. So in today's training, we're going to go into the Rolling Hills server. If you haven't heard of the Rolling Hills server, it is a simulation server. It's for you to practice, or it's very useful, and I'd recommend using it if you are new to TE. And it can be you can go into it and delete any records, update any records, create any records you like. It resets every night. So feel free to use this so that you can learn more about TE. It does require its own set of login credentials. In this training today, I'm going to use Administrator 1. Excuse me. And password, we're going to use admin. We're going to let that log in for a second here. And once we're logged in, we're going to see a page that says Start Page. So you can think of your Start Page as like your bulletin board. It has all the updates from CASAS, any updates or release notes from the TE program. And then it has some how-to information, shortcuts, and any reports that you want to refer back to. You can exit out of this Start Page with that red X right there. And we're going to go back into that, and we're going to see how we can open that back up again. But a trick with TE in this TE icon right here is if you hover over it, you will get your agency information. So whenever you call tech support and you need that information promptly, you can definitely hover over this TE and get that agency information ID number. So if I were to click on that TE icon, we're going to have a drop down, and I'm just going to run through these options. So with this option right here that says lock, what it does is that it's going to save your session in TE, but it's going to take you back to this sign-in page right here. So if, let's say, you want to take a little break from TE, you can use that lock button or option. And then if you want to sign back in, just type in your password again, and your session should pop back up from where you left off. Going back to that TE icon again, if we want to disconnect from the server, you can click on that. If you want to change password, you can do that anytime. So if I click on that, it's going to require your old password. So if you have the need to want to change your password, you can do this anytime. Just remember to put in your old password and then retype your new password. Just take a look at some more of the options here. So if we click on that, I'm gonna skip associate account and options for this training. It's I don't think it's relevant to the basics training. It is more technical. I'll move on from there. So just to explore some of the menus here. So if we look at view, we click on that. Again, if we want to have the start page pop up again, that's where we go and click on. And we'll go back to view here. Dashboard is also a little bit more technical. I wouldn't worry about that too much. It's rarely ever used. So these options right here that says small, normal, medium, large, these are to kind of change the size of your options available in TE. So if we click on small, it's gonna decrease the size of the options. If we click on normal, we're gonna have it as normal size, medium, kind of largen it a little bit, and then large size. In this training, I'll leave it as normal. Some of the menus available here, let's say in organization, if we click on that, we have the drop down. So you will notice some arrows here pointing to the right. That's to signify that there are submenus available. So let's say for classes, if we hover over it, we're gonna have a submenu here. For personnel, we'll have that also, forms. If we move on to records here, we have students, and then we have more submenus, classes, programs. In reports, a little interesting with reports. There are a ton of reports in TE, and if you hover over test results, let's say, and then skills profile, there's submenus. So there's a lot of reports to choose from. And we're gonna go into reports in a little bit here. In tools, we have all wizards. So what wizards are is that they're step-by-step guidance from the computer so that you can finish a task. So let's say if you want to do an import, the computer is going to take you step-by-step. You'd have to input some information, and then the task will be completed to import from another program. With help, if you ever want to access content or release notes or the end user license agreement for whatever reason, you can definitely do that in help. So a little bit about how TE is organized by the records. So if we can dumb down TOPSpro Enterprise into how data and records are organized, it would be by organization and records. So organization and records, those are the two main houses for your data. Organization can be thought of as your agency and what that comprises of. So think of organization as your agency. And what else does organization include? So if we look at agency and then see what trickles down from there, we can look at sites. We can look at users within the agency and what role these users play in the agency, such as administrators, teachers, personnel, and also classes. So all of those are under organization. So remember, organization within TE can be thought of as the same as agency, okay? On the other side, we have records. Just like how agency is linked to organization, students are the main category in records. Any information that trickles down from there would be comprised of those student records, such as what classes did those students attend, what programs did those students attend. You may hear or see this later on when you're using TE more, or also when you're in other workshops with Summer Institute. And it's the idea of the parent and child record. If you have a parent record, such as your student ID, child record would be what is attached from that student information. For example, a child record would be test records or attendance records. I'd like to actually show a little picture here to describe. So if we take a look at this, I really like this picture. The student ID, we would consider it as a parent record or the primary key. So it's the start of all your records that will hold together. So your student record, and then whatever follows from there are your child records. So let's say classes or programs or tests. These are all your child records. They follow from the primary parent record. Okay, we're gonna see more of this in practical use as we move forward in the live demo. Okay, guys, any questions from there?
Nothing in the chat box yet.
All right, great.
To ask questions.
Thank you. So we're gonna transition a little bit and we're gonna go into TE report. So in this training, I'm gonna use the individual skills profile, and to access that, it would be under reports and test results, skills profile, and individual skills profile. Again, there are a ton of reports, and reports have submenus. So we're gonna click on individual skills profile. So right off the bat, what we're gonna see is the general settings page. In at the top here, we're gonna see session name. This is, you can edit this. So you can name it any name you like. And this is because if you are gonna save this certain report, you can easily find it under that name. So let's say, I'm gonna change this to SI for Summer Institute 2021. Session comments, you can give it any comment so that you know what you were looking at this time. Let's say today, I'm gonna use this as training purpose. Okay, so I'm gonna collapse this for now so that I don't have too much going on. So common filters, what do we have here? So we can filter by program years. We have current program year, we have last year, and then the year before that. So you can pick from a couple years back. I'm gonna choose current program year for this example. Programs, so what program enrollment do we want to target for this report? I want to look at basic skills in high school diploma. So I'm gonna deselect ESL and HSE. So I want students who are only in ABE and high school diploma, okay? Class status, what do we want to target for class status? Do we wanna see classes that are active, completed, inactive? In this case, I'm just gonna leave it as NA. I just want all the classes to be available and no filters for that. I'm gonna collapse this for now so that we get a cleaner look here. Date ranges. So activity date means that any activity such as attendance or anything will pop up if we were to target like an activity date. We have all these different timelines that we can choose from. I just leave it as NA for now. Assessment date. So when do we want this to the timeline to start for students who have tested? So we have a lot of options here to pick from. We do have the ability to make it a customized date, but in this example, I'll use last week, and it automatically populates for last week. You know what? I'll use last month just in case if I can't find any results. So I'll have it for last month, May 1st to May 31st. As you can see, they're automatically populated. I'll collapse that for now. report sort order, we have it sorted by agency, program, student name, student ID. So when you have your report, it's going to be sorted like that. The pages will be sorted by modalities, assessment date, and form. So when you have different pages, it's going to be sorted like that. I'll collapse this for now. Actually, I have more here, so I'll collapse that in a bit. But if we move down, we have report style options. So these are color schemes that you want to give your report. I'll leave it as blue for now, and we can experiment with that later. Show NRS educational functioning levels legend. I can show you guys this in a bit, but I'll leave that checked off. And I would leave that by default. It's only more information that can be useful. Page orientation, we usually leave reports in portrait. You can definitely change it to landscape if you want. Totally up to you. Content standards, CCRS, we'll leave it as that. And then show grade level equivalent. This is pretty popular amongst you customers because they want to see how your student tested and their grade equivalency. So I'm going to actually check that off. I'll collapse this for now so that we have a cleaner look. This is more, it's not really used quite often, but you can check it off if you want. So show only students with competency analysis. I'm gonna leave this as is. So we're gonna leave it as default. Actually, let me go back to this. So if we have this checked on, the report won't give us any results. So I believe the threshold is about 500 pages. So if the system sees that there are more than 500 pages, it's not going to give us any results because there's too much pages and reports. And for good measures also, you may not even want that many pages available. So I'm actually gonna I'll leave that checked on for now. Include criteria info. We'll leave all these on. It's only going to provide more information. Agency print option, we have it as ID and name. You can't break it up into just ID or just name, or switch it around and have name ID. I'll leave it as default for this. Student name format, we'll leave it for first and last name. You can change it to last name and first name if you want. First, middle, last, first, middle. I'll leave it as first and last. And I'm gonna run this report now. So at the top here, we have the generate button. We're gonna click on that. Okay, so we have some results. Let's see here. So we have about 8 pages. So about 8 student records for the individual skills profile. So in looking at this first student right here, Alicia Quintana. So this student took a math and reading. This is part of the goals series. We have the form 918M and 907R. And what date did the student take this, which is on May 3rd. Scale scores, NRS levels, form levels, total number of questions on these tests, total correct. This is also your raw score, attempted, and grade equivalency. And that's where we check that off on that first general settings page. If I didn't check that off, you wouldn't have this column right here. That's, as I mentioned earlier, that's very popular with customers. Going down here, reading competencies, it's going to show us the subjects here: community resources, health, employment. How many questions are pertaining to this subject? Community resources, there were 4 questions. The student got 75% of those 4 questions right. So about 3 questions were answered correctly. Math competency, same here. We have consumer economics, community resources, so on and so forth. How many of those questions pertain to these subjects? So 8 questions were pertaining to consumer economics. 62% were answered correctly. Moving on to this top portion here. So college and career readiness standards. We have vocabulary and we have CCR reading anchor standards. How many number of those questions were pertaining to this, which is 4. And how many were answered percentage-wise? How many were answered correctly? Same with math here. Just more of some reading tasks. It gets kind of specific here, and then math tasks. It also has a GED subsection, high set subsection, and this is where the if you look at the bottom here, this is where the NRS educational functioning levels is located, and that was from the general settings page. So it's going to only help you. It's going to provide more information. You can refer to this. Any questions about this individual skills profile? Okay, moving on. So how do we get a virtual or an electronic copy of these reports? So at the top, we have the export button. You can click on that, and you're going to have a copy of this. So if you want to put it into your desktop, it's going to save. I'm going to open that up. And remember, the name that I changed, you're going to see it as a title also. And there it is. You have it in an electronic copy. And this is on Adobe. We'll go back into TE. If you want to print it out, you can click on print. And you just have to select your printer and then click print. You can, I believe, set the page to what you want to just print out. I think if you want this first page, you can do it by 1, and then you have to do a -1. So you only want that if you want this first page only. Same thing if you want that second page. I believe you can do you know what? I think it only works for, I think it's it might be that. Yeah, or it could only work for that first page. I can look into that more, but we're going to look into more of the training on how to isolate students also. So that would definitely help out if you want to isolate for one student. Moving that along here, at the top, we have layout settings. So if we click on that, we're going to go back to that general settings page again, and we can make changes here. So let's say if we want to take out show grade level equivalent, I can deselect that and click apply. All of a sudden, it's going to refresh, and it's going to have a new layout settings applied. It's going to take out that grade equivalency. So now you don't see it. Fit page, you can have it all on one page, so you can have like a whole view of it. Fit width, you're gonna have the size adjusted into your whole computer. You can actually unpin this too if this is taking up some space. So you have this whole page right here to look at. This is something subtle, but if you take a look up here, you have a green color scheme for the option right here. This just means that it's being activated right now. So whatever is going to be activated, you're going to see that green color. So fit width is activated, and it's going to be green. So I'll move on to 2 pages. It's going to give you a view of 2 pages for reports. So you can scroll down. So these are all the 8 students. Thumbnails. So if you click on that, you will have a miniature view of all your reports on the right side, so you can access them quickly. And show summaries. So if you click on that, it's going to show you where all the available drill down options you can click on. So drill down is a feature that you can go into your reports and access information quickly, or access the source of that information. So let's say community resources, you can actually hover over it. And that means that red box over it means that you can drill down into it. So if that number 4 is you can drill down into it. You can actually right click and drill down into where that number 4 is coming from, the source of that number 4. You can also click on it if you want, and it's going to take you, if you actually just right click, it'll give you more options here to drill down. So keep in mind that some numbers on these reports are drill down accessible, and that will help you cut through all the data and get right to that number. We'll look at more. And if you want to keep your session, if you want to keep this report, you can click on keep session. And what that does is, if you go into, notice that it takes you out of that report. And if you want to access that again, you can go to reports. You can go to reports manager to see all your archived reports. And notice that it's right there. And it's going to have that comment right there. So you can access that again if you need to. Okay, so that is generating a report. We're going to go into how to isolate your students or any class instances or tests. So we'll go back into reports, test results, skills profile, individual skills profile. So this is a new session. Keep in mind that last session was called SI 2021. This is a new one now. So on the left side, you're going to see something called a navigator. What a navigator is that it's going to show all the data categorized by these options here. So class definitions, it's going to show all these class definitions from your agency. Personnel is going to show your personnel available, such as your teachers, your class instances, student demographics. In-program years is what I want to look at. So what in-program years shows are all the students from 2021. So any student that has any tests or any activity will be available on this list. And you can actually filter for any students. And this is where if you want just one particular student, you can actually find that student by ID or also by name. So I can click on the filter here. I want to look for a particular student. So I know that student's first name. I'm going to leave it with starts with, because that's the student's first name. And we're going to type in the student's first name. So I've done this many times, and I know that Cyrus has some information there. So there are 2 Cyruses. We'll take a look at Cyrus Vasquez. So I'll deselect this student. And remember, this is the only student that we are isolating for. Okay, so by checking off that one student, we're telling the system that excuse me, that this is that one student that we want to look into. So if we have our student here, we can click generate. And now we have Cyrus Vasquez's information here now. So in the individual skills profile. Keep in mind that it's 2 pages. The second page just tells you all the general settings and information inputted. So it's not really any students on that second page. So it's just the single student. We have same thing here, math, reading, and all the information only regarding the Cyrus here. So that's one way to isolate just for one student in for the individual skills profile. Okay. We'll exit out of here. And we'll close this out for now. Any questions, guys? So that is pulling up reports, individual skills profile, using the navigator. Scott, Connie, Veronica, you guys are doing good?
I think so. We got Scott here, so we're okay.
Perfect. So we have, we're gonna transition into a lister now. So we're gonna take a look at the functions and features for a lister. We're gonna start with the students demographics lister. So we can find that in records, and then students, and then demographics. Okay, this is gonna pull up the lister. And lister will look like kind of like an Excel sheet, but we have columns up here. Notice that we have filters for each columns. I'm gonna get into that in a moment. We have these arrows. These arrows means that it's gonna be sorted numerically or or alphabetized the order of it. So we're gonna take a look at, into that in a bit. But notice also at the top, remember, green means it's activated. So filter is on, sort is on. Sort is actually right here. You'll see it color coded by an orange. So that means that sort is going on for student ID. So filter, if you click on this, we have this lister sorted by current program year, meaning that every student on this list, about 800 right here, 803 students, are being sorted by current program year. That's important to know because a lot of times we input a student information, and this happens a lot. They don't pop up. They don't show up on this list. They're not part of that 803 because this filter is blocking them. And what this does is that any activity that student did will only show up for that current program year. If you simply created a student with no activity, that student won't show up on this list because of this filter. If I were to exit this filter out, watch what happens. So we have about at least 6,500 students here. So this is getting all the students from any students from the database at all that doesn't even have activity records. They're going to be showing on this list. Okay, so if you simply create a student, they're not going to show up on that because of that filter. It's filtering out for any current program year. And this is for a good reason, because if you don't have that filter on, you're going to have so many students to kind of sort through. And as we saw earlier, we only had about 800 students. That's a lot already. And if you want to sort those students, you can use the sort function or the button right here. If you click on that, we have it sorted by student ID. You can add more sorts if you want. So let's say I want to sort by, let's see here. I'll do first and last name. Okay. Well, that didn't show up, but we have one for student ID. If I just click on this, actually, it's gonna have, let's try that one more time. So if we have, we'll try gender. because gender is on this. So we'll add it. Okay, so now we have two sorts, right? Student ID going ascending or descending down. So student ID descending. And the other one is gender in ascending. So of course, you're gonna have male and female only. Let's see if I could do ethnicity. Okay, I'll add ethnicity for my third sort also. Okay, so if you notice here, we have it for student ID, gender, and ethnicity. We can do a little refresh. And this is being sorted by student ID now, and then the second sort will be by female. So if you notice here, they may be grouped by female, and then all of a sudden ethnicity comes in with the sort. So you have this sorted also. So you can have multiple sorts if you want. If you have a large list and you're trying to keep your data a little bit organized or see some relationships, you can sort it by multiple sorts. We have this filter icon also. It's a funnel icon actually. So if you click on that, and we saw this earlier when we were pulling up reports. So we have starts with. So whatever key you type in, let's say 1, 2, 3, any information that results back will have information that starts with 1, 2, 3. If you click on this, we have ends with. Any results that comes back will have 1, 2, 3 that will have it ending with those results. Contains anything that has 1, 2, 3 in it, regardless of where that string is, will come back as a result. So if I want to do contains and then 1, 2, 3, notice that some of these have 1, 2, 3 in them, 1, 2, 3, and it doesn't matter where they are. It's going to bring back those results. So if you notice these columns up here, you're not limited to just these columns on the lister. So what you can do is you can place your mouse anywhere, and wherever you place your mouse, it matters on where you want to add your new column. So if you place it here, and then if you right click, you're gonna have a giant drop down. So you have a ton of options available for you. So let's say if you wanna include last name, and then we'll go another column here. We'll do first name, and then we'll do, let's see here, middle name. So you have all these students now. They have their full name here, but you can break it up into last name, first name, and middle name. You can actually move this around also. So it's not set in stone like this. You can move them around. So we have last name, middle name, first name. You can actually take out columns too if you don't need them. So if I want to take out this name column, I can right click on it and then go to hide. And then now that's gone. So if you, let's say you like your setup like this, right? So everything is perfect for you. You want to go back into your lister like this each and every time. What you can do is there's a more button on the right hand corner right here. So if you click on that, and if you click on schema, and if you want to just give it a name, you can save the schema, and it's gonna have it pre-selected for you or pre-saved for you every time you go back into that student lister. So if you go back, records, students, demographics, and notice that it goes back into its default format, right? So if you want to go into your saved one, it's right here. So actually now it's popped up right here. So once we have our sort, and then we have our columns, and each and every time you go back into it, you can look at your schema, and then you can go back into that. You have your default also. So if you want to go back into your default mode, you have all of this, but if you want to click on that drop down, you can go back into your saved schema. Okay, so that's pre-saved for you. All right, any questions, guys?
We're
Okay,
good.
all right. So we're gonna move on from there. We're gonna go into some demographic examples. So if, in that same lister, we're gonna go into records, students, and then demographics. I'm gonna select any of these students. So let's say I'm gonna go into Johnson's last name Johnson information here, Soraya. So we have our student information as the first thing that pops up. This is your demographic information. Remember, your demographic information is considered your parent record. So all of this, actually your student ID is the most important key there. So that's part of your parent record. Everything else, you know, we have available here. We have, if you click on this edit mode here, you can select and make changes also. So let's say if you want to change your student ID, you can do so. If you want to, given that there's no other student ID that's created with that same one in the database, you can just change it if it's incorrect. Social security number, all the basic information there, site enrollment. Usually all information are placed in the agency, but if you want to have a site enrollment for your student, you can do so. For education, we have all these available for you to input: ethnicity, race, language, more information here, address, and consumer information. So let's say I just want to change the student ID. I can go ahead, click save. And so now the student ID has been saved. Moving on from there, on the left side, we touched on this a little bit earlier with the reports. This is your navigator again. So if you look at it through like an idea of a hierarchy, at the very top you have your edit view, which is your demographic information, which also again is your parent record. Everything else at the top is your parent record. At the bottom, all of these are your child records. So what the navigator allows you to do is go access these information in a very convenient and quick way. Let's say in program years, you have that information there, that record available. Student records, what student records does this student have? No, we don't have anything here. Class enrollments, what students are the classes are taking these classes. Class records, any hours for this class for the student. There's no class hours here. Program enrollments. We don't see any program enrollments here. So this student doesn't have too much information. And let's see tests. The student didn't take any tests. So again, this navigator is allowing you to access these information quickly, okay? Very convenient and quick. We can edit these information. We can add information for, let's say, if we have in-program years and there's a record for it already, you can go into it and double click into that record. You can make edit to this. So if you want, you can add site. You can do force majeure, and then you can click save. Some more information here. Let's see. Class enrollments, you can go double click on it and then open up into edit mode. You can change the dates on this if you want. So let's say this class didn't really start on the 17th of March. You can do March 10th and then save it. And now the student started into this class on March 10th. Okay, guys, so the next topic I want to go over is adding data manually. So I want to get some information from the participants on this. So questions for you guys. How do you guys register your students? Do you guys do it by a third party? How do you guys track, demographic information? Can you guys, if you guys have any information on that? How do you guys register students? Is it through a third party? A lot of people use ASAP. Any of the participants? No? Okay, so let's say, Scott, you used ASAP a lot, right? Back in Fontana?
Yeah, that was our main source of collecting all the student information.
Okay, so yeah, that's a very popular third-party program. So what I'm trying to get is that the next part here is that we don't have to add records manually. You can do this by imports via your third-party program, usually like a CSV file, and that's the majority of the agencies and how they do it. So I will just go over a few parts on adding other data manually. What I want to jump into is adding sites manually. So if we go into organization and then sites, I think you can actually do this with imports also. So we have our sites listed here. We only have one site available, and this is an e-test site. It's called North Campus, and the site ID is 01. Okay, we can add more sites if we want, which I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to click on New, and it's going to ask for a container. So container means if it's an agency or if it's a site. So sites can also be subsites. So we'll leave it as agency. Site ID, we'll call it 02, and then site name would be new. And we have the decision to make it an e-test site or not. So with this checkbox, I'll make it an e-test site, which means that you can use it with e-test. You can use this site with e-test. Site contact, you don't have to give site contact, totally optional. I'll just do it for this example. Okay, so now I just created a new site. I'm gonna go back, and there's my new site right there. So it's site ID 2, site name new, and then contact name is John Doe. That's how you create a site, and it is an e-test site. So once you log into e-test, you will see two sites, 01 and 02. Adding and managing users. So if we go back into organization, and if we go to users, we have a ton of users on the Rolling Hills database. We have multiple data managers, and this is for training purpose. The Rolling Hills will have a ton of data managers, so you can use any of these whenever you want. But in order to add a new user, same thing here. We can go to new and link with existing personnel. So if you have created a personnel record for like a teacher, and if you want that teacher to have a TE account, you can actually link it. Link the teacher into the user account. So you can do that. Container, again, if you want this user to be at the agency or site only. So if they're at the site, they can only access that site. If they're at the agency, they can access all the sites available. In this example, I'll use agency. Test account, or I'm sorry, user account. We'll do test. Password, we'll give like a temporary password. And then we'll do groups. We have another workshop called user access and sites. We will talk about more about that with groups here, but for this account, I just want this user to have ET coordinator, and we'll add that access right. It's going to ask if this user has completed training. We're going to click yes. First name, we'll do test. Last name, test. Email, test@yahoo.com. State, we'll do Alaska. And from here, we can just click save. And if we go back to our users lister, we will see that account available here. So this account is called test, and it has ET coordinator. And now this user can access e-test and also TE. All right, any questions, anyone? Okay, I think that is it. We have about 5 minutes, so I'm actually gonna end my screen share. So if you guys have any questions, we're here to answer any questions. I'm gonna end my screen share for now. Stop share. Okay, guys, we have about 5 minutes. So any questions you guys have, we are here to answer them.
Tyler, I have a question for you. It was in the chat, and it was whether to have a recommendation to add sites if you're using pencil and paper.
I don't think so. Scott, can you confirm that? I don't think we could do it with pen and pencil and paper.
As far as I'm aware, to set up sites, if an agency is looking at doing that, they may want to go through that with someone in detail on the tech support team or someone else, because I know it has to do with, I know Connie mentioned this in the chat as well, that it kind of, I believe you can, because I think you can enter a site when you enter the test. Maybe you cannot.
Yes.
You can, right, Connie? I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have 30 different sites in my
Right.
database, or 30 or more.
Right.
And when I CASAS test, I scan them, and we do all pencil paper testing, and I scan them and I assign them to the site from which they've tested. And that way I can take the tests, and I can, when I go in and look up test scores, one of the columns I can sort by site, so I can see only the tests that were done at that site. I don't, because we test like 1,000 people at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like Connie said, I think it's really the way your agency is set up will depend on how you want to utilize those sites. So I know at our agency that I worked at, for example, I'll give sort of the other side of the coin. So Connie has 30 sites that she uses like crazy, and it's super helpful. On our end, we had all of our classes at one site, and then we had a few off-site classes at elementary schools in our area. So maybe just one class of 12 students. And so for us, it wasn't worth having a whole site for each of those because it was only maybe 10 students. So we just included them under our single site. But this is why, for each agency, it really matters how you're set up, and you may want to, talk with someone in more detail specifically about your agency before you decide whether you want to do sites or not.
Right, I have another question that was sent to me, and I don't want to give the wrong answer. But can a mass update be done on students for a barrier? And I know that when I bring student entry records over from ASAP to TE, I can do mass updates on barriers. But I don't know if once I'm in TE, I can do a mass update. I always try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
I don't think so for barriers.
Well, if you use the, I think if you're doing, you can do it, you'd have to do it as a bulk import.
Right,
A
I can
manual bulk import. Yeah, on the entry records, I think, right? Or where the barriers are going to
Yeah.
be.
If I do it on the entry records and I bring this stuff over from ASAP, I can do mass barriers there.
Right.
But once they're in TE, say I find out that everybody in this class that I didn't know about was special ed, I have to go in and put in that barrier individually. I can't choose all those students and do a mass
Edit.
edit.
Yeah.
But I will certainly try it. I'll go in and I'll choose all of them and I'll click batch. I'll look for it, and if it's there, I'll do it. And if it's not there, then I won't do it.
There are two other questions in the chat box. One is from Kelly. If we enter everything manually and staff is all new, how do